Okay, we're finally going to start modeling here. And so first, let's take a look at a few changes that I've made here. First of all, I've taken a lot of the tools that I commonly use that are scattered throughout the interface, and I put them all in one tab. So this is pretty much like 90% of the tools that I use for modeling is all right here. But I will try to tell you where they are in the default interface. Another thing I've got up here is I've got our statistics panel, which you can open with a W key. And I have our layers panel, which you can open with the F7 key. And then the numeric panel, which is N. And almost every tool uses this numeric panel, so I just like to leave it open. So let's get moving with the head. Let's zoom in a little bit here. All right, and so we're going to look at a couple of different techniques for the head. And the first one, we're just going to use the disk tool, which of course is also on the Create tab. And so I'm going to hold Control to make sure it's fully circular. And I'm just going to drag it out and try to make it fit that curve. And that looks pretty good. I can press spacebar to drop the tool. Now I can switch over to Polygon selection mode, and I'm going to copy and paste this and then use T to drag it down. Okay. Okay, and next up I'm going to grab make the box tool, which of course is also on Create, and I'm just going to eyeball it, and down here if you look in this section you can see where the position is, and so if I look at the X I can see that I'm right on the center when it says 0. And so I'm just going to click and drag down and right until I get to the bottom and press spacebar to drop it. And so now I can just hit K to kill all the polygons. And so we can delete a bunch of these by just dragging with the right mouse button. And it's going to delete everything that's not following the line. And also this one in the middle here and this one. I'm just going to select all of those and hit delete. Now I'm going to select them in order, just like this. And if you miss one like that, it's okay. You just deselect the ones after and hold Shift and continue selecting. There we go. Now we've got all of them, and I can hit P for polygon. So now we've created our polygon there. And you can see it's not quite straight here, so I can select that one. I'm going to hold Control and T for move, and just drag it up and down until I see that it's straight. And looks like this one already is straight, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to hit Shift A to zoom everything in, and we can see it here. And I'm going to select that. It's already selected when I switch over to Polygon selection mode. And I'm going to hit Shift L, and that's the lathe tool, and press N for numeric. And you can see it's already set to go around Y on the numeric panel here. And though you can see it's inside out, and that happens a lot. Sometimes it'll happen, sometimes it won't. The easy way to fix that though is to look at this end angle and just put the cursor right in front of that and hit minus, and hit either enter on the numeric panel or just click in one of the other boxes, and it fixes it. Okay, and so we can press enter, and might have to press enter again, and we've got our main part of the head now. Okay, and now selecting the top part, So we can see that it's going way beyond where it needs to go for the stud. And so what I can do for that is I can use the MultiShift tool, which you should also find on the Multiply tab. Yep, right here. And so I click MultiShift, and we'll see on here an option to group the polygons, and we definitely want to click that so that it will move them all at once instead of individually. So let's adjust the inset amount. I'm going to drag that forward, and it looks like 1 inch or 1 millimeter is slightly too far. Let's zoom this in a little bit and have a look. Yeah, it's going just a little bit too far. So let's say like 0.9 millimeters. That's still a little too far. Try 700 micrometers, which is 0.9 millimeters. And that looks pretty good. So we can press enter. And then we can either use MultiShift to expand that out, or we can just press E for extend, and then press T to move, and just use the control key to drag that up. And we'll go all the way up to the top, and that's pretty good. It can be somewhere in the middle of the line, it's close enough. And we'll press enter. And we can see that's not really rounded around there. So let's use edge selection mode. Grab all these on top. And here's our problem, is that it's selecting everything. So what I'm going to do is select all those polygons like that, or I can just click them and drag around to select them all. And then I'm going to hit Shift Z, and that combines them all into one polygon. So then we can use the rounder tool, which you can also find under Multiply. It'll be right here. I'll go back to my user tab. And so with rounder, we just need to make sure that after you activate the tool, you click in one of these top panels, top sections of the viewport, and it will start doing the rounding. Then in the numeric panel, we can adjust how many polygons and how much the distance is. So looks like it's it's pretty small. So let's say like 0.2 millimeters. That's a little too small. Let's say 3, maybe 4. That's pretty good. And so let's reduce this. We don't quite need 6. Reduce it to maybe 3. And press enter. Okay, and there we go. There's the stud on top. Then this part for his neck is pretty simple. You can kind of repeat the process we did above. You can select all of these, and we can see it's already matching perfectly with where it needs to be. So I'll just press E, and press T, and use Control to drag down. And there we go. There's our basic head shape. So let's try a different way of doing it. I'll go to a new layer, and so we can do this basically the same way we did the top stud there. We'll pick the disk tool to start us off, and I'm gonna, from the top viewport, I'm gonna make sure it's centered right in the middle, again looking at the position down there. Make sure it's at 0 and 0. Then I can press Control and drag it out. And I'm looking in the lower left viewport here, and I can see when it reaches the edge. Okay, now I can just use Control or just use drag to pull this up. I'll pull this one down and press enter. So now we can just select these top and bottom, and we'll use rounder and click. And see, this is where we have a problem where rounder tries to round everything. So the way to fix that, let's undo, is to cut a line across the middle here. So I'll deselect those. I'm going to press Shift K for a knife, and then I'll just drag across holding the Control key to make sure it's constrained. Press Enter, and now I can select these top and bottom polygons and use rounder, and we'll click, and there we go. It actually remembered what we used last time for the top, but we need to round it a little bit larger this time. So let's adjust the distance. That's pretty good, actually, just like that, 2 millimeters. But I'm going to use a couple of more rounding polygons because that's a little faceted looking. So let's add a couple more. I think 5 works for this one. And press Enter. And now we don't need this cut that we put here anymore. So I can actually select that whole edge and hit Delete. And so now we've got our basic head shape again. And we can just repeat the same process we did before to add the top and bottom. Okay, so that wraps it up for making our head shape. If you liked this video and you learned something, please consider becoming a patron. With support, I'll be able to make more of these videos. Also, be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.